Hey, what's up,
Okay.
guys? Welcome back to Nerd After Hours. It's me and Carissa back after a very long hiatus of how long? Forever?
I think it was a month.
A month?
It's been
Okay,
like a good month, yeah.
okay. That's what it feels like. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so we got some spice to talk about, involving some nerd stuff, adjacently speaking. But it's one that both Carissa and I are kind of vague. Well, I'm vaguely paying attention to it. I feel like Carissa is gonna know more of it about it than I do. But we're
Very
gonna
invested in this topic.
but since it involves two actors who are involved with multiple franchises that I find interesting, so I will have that aspect to bring to things. So we're going to talk about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation, and Carissa, you have the floor.
Okay, so I know you said you haven't been keeping super up to date with it. I
Yeah,
have been. Where are you kind of information wise? Have you paid attention to the trial or have you just kind of seen clips like most people?
I've seen clips when I'm scrolling on TikTok, so I know something about Amber Heard like chopped off a part of his finger in a door. I've heard the thing about
Not a
her.
door,
Okay,
but she did chop off a piece of her finger. Yeah, she did do that.
I've also heard about her crapping the bed because Bella Delphine made a joke about it, and I didn't get it, so I had to Google it.
Oh, you, yeah,
Yeah,
she shot in his bed. That was,
yeah.
I feel like that's the most like
Is it?
potent thing. 'Cause
I
I had heard like the rumor about that happening, but I figured that probably like that's just too funny to be true. But
yeah,
fun fact, it is true. Yeah, proven fact. She
yeah,
shot in his bed.
yeah.
So,
The only reason I even found out about it is because I was scrolling on Twitter and Bella Delphine popped up, and she made a joke about it, and I didn't
hmm
get it, and I was like, huh? So I Googled it, and that's how I found out. Apparently, Amber Heard decided to crap the bed with Johnny Depp because basically what she did is Bella Delphine, as you know, she has like all these weird ass props, and one of her weird
hmm
props is she has a thing of rubber poop.
I I didn't know that about her, but
Well, you do now, and I do now because, and the only reason why I say the weird ass props is because like I've seen random pictures of her popping through my feed on Twitter, and she has a bunch of just weird stuff. Like she literally has a dildo that's the shape of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer.
oh,
Yeah,
I've seen that on Etsy, but
yeah, that's probably where she got it. But yeah, like I just, like people do like I don't know what it is about her specifically, but people will do like zoom in photos of like stuff in the background, and I don't get it, but it is what it is, I guess. Anyway, so the point is like that's how I found out about the Amber Heard thing is because she took a picture of her with her pants, with her cheeks hanging out of her pants. Like you can't see anything vital or anything like that. But then there's like a rubber turd on her
Mhm.
bed, and she was like, "See, I'm pulling an Amber Heard," and I was all like, as controversial a person as you are, Miss Delphine, I'm not sure you should be making jokes like these.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. But the lady's half a sex worker and half an internet troll, so that's my perception of her anyway.
Okay, so you know about the shot in the bed and the
Yeah.
finger
Oh,
thing.
sorry
You
to bring it
know,
back to the Amber Heard thing. Sorry, I went on a whole tangent about that oddball. Sorry about that.
okay. So basically, this like whole case, like it being on trial, isn't really about money. It's about the whole reason why Johnny wanted to have it public was so that he could show everybody the evidence because basically, because it's ruined his reputation. He doesn't want
Mm-hmm.
that on his thing.
Yeah.
I think I come from like a unique perspective because as a woman, when I originally heard the allegations, I immediately just assumed it was probably true because usually that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like all like I'm gonna cancel Johnny Depp and get rid of stuff. I remember being like, ah, oh, bummer. Johnny's another shitty guy in Hollywood too. Guess all like your childhood, uh,
All
you
your
know,
all your childhood
idols, all
heroes
they
are
all turn out to be
dickheads.
the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, because you see that all the time. And it was very interesting looking into the evidence and just seeing how off all of that was, and kind of, I don't want to say for me I felt bad because it wasn't like I was going all over the place, but just showing like how people can just take things at face value.
Yeah. Maybe
Um,
that's why I thought it was just two people being
and
cloned,
why,
because
statistics can help, but it's not always how things are, because usually men are the abusers doesn't mean it is.
yeah,
I'm not saying like Johnny didn't ever do anything bad in the marriage, but in my opinion, he is in the right, she is in the wrong, point blank. I highly doubt anything could come out that could sway how I feel about it, especially with like the amount of stuff that is out there and
yeah,
how long this has been going on. And I keep up with everything to date.
yeah.
And it's not just because she shat in a bed. Like, obviously,
No, that'd
that's
be
a
enough for
really
me.
weird thing
That'd
to
be enough for
do.
me. I'm just kidding.
Um,
I'm just kidding. Sorry.
but the thing is, like, if you listen to the recordings of them, she's constantly taunting him. And, like, for me, like, the deal breaker for me was her saying, like, well, nobody's going to believe you, Johnny. Like, you're an idiot. Like, you're such a baby, like, taunting him.
Yeah,
And I've been in abusive relationships before, and I've seen that type of thing.
yeah,
And I can just instantly go, like, oh, yeah, she's in the wrong. And especially, like, she's using the fact that she's a woman and people are going to be more likely to believe like she'd be the one being abused versus him, to her defense. And also the fact that he's 50, he's been in a lot of long-term relationships,
mm,
and none of his other partners have had that, but all of her public relationships that are available have spoke out about her being abusive, especially her ex-girlfriend
yeah. It does
who
say a
did
lot.
press charges.
Yeah, it does say a
It
lot
just,
that
for me, like, that speaks enough.
yeah, it does kind of help a little bit, doesn't it? Because like, if a guy has a history of it, and then it's more than likely he did it. But you know,
He doesn't.
exactly. And they're saying like, yeah, we had problems probably, but we just, or what, like every couple does, but abuse wasn't one of them.
Hmm.
Is what I'm
So,
gambling his exes are probably saying.
yeah. Well, like, a lot of them spoke up publicly. 'Cause it's like, even people who probably should have been on worse terms with, because they're like, this is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
I was with this man for X amount of years and this never happened.
yeah. I don't. It kind of makes me wonder if like if because I think she's mentioned that he's hit her too, right? Like she's claimed that Johnny's hit her, that kind of thing.
She claimed that, but there's no evidence. If anything, like, the only things that could all be presented is him trying to get away from her. She was screaming at him that she was mad that he was running away from her when she was trying to have a conversation because he didn't want to have a physical altercation.
Yeah,
And she was mad at him for that because he wouldn't like, he would try to get away from her instead of letting
like
her hit him.
yeah. The only thing I can think of that if Johnny did hit her at all, if he did, it would be more of a reactionary thing. Like she hit him and he went. You know what I mean? That's the only thing
Yeah,
that pops in my mind.
but there's been a lot of cases of her faking bruises and stuff to try to get sympathy.
Yeah.
Like, that's another reason why it's like, I can't take you seriously now, because if you lied once about that, who's to say how many other times,
Oh,
like,
that sparked a
if you're
memory.
the
Yeah, there was a thing where she like, oh, he bruised my back or whatever, and then they showed a
look,
picture of
Johnny hit
them
me,
the
and yeah.
day after, and she didn't have a bruise on her back at all like the Oscars or something.
Yeah.
One of
And it's
those.
like, makeup can do good, but only so good. Like, makeup's not like a magical cure-all.
Yeah, I've seen the There's another video I saw where she got called out by a makeup company because she said,
Yeah,
oh,
they faked what makeup palette she used. It's like, oh yeah, this is the exact one she kept in her purse to hide her bruises.
and it's like, that didn't
Didn't exist.
exist when y'all were dating. Sorry.
That
Yeah,
was my favorite thing. I was just like, yes, get her. Like, oh my gosh, what talk about being called out. I was so happy about that.
yeah. My knee jerk reaction, to be honest, was just kind of to assume that they were both evil to each other. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? That was my knee jerk reaction. Like, oh, it was just a toxic relationship. They were both bad for each other, and just leave it at that. You know what I mean? And just kind of stay out of it was kind of my initial thought. But if you've been paying more attention to it than I have, and
Mm-mm.
you're saying she's the bad person, you're somebody I trust. I'm more, and here's the thing: the reason why I initially felt like it was probably just two toxic people was because all I had seen mostly was just guys saying
Yeah.
that they're going to boycott all of Amber Heard's
That
movies.
is.
So it's kind of
Oh.
like, to me, it's kind of like, oh, you're a dude who's just siding with a dude, and it's just, and I, as somebody, and I know I know people are going to think it's weird because I've been on the end of that. I have been hit by women before that I have dated.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So you would think that I would do it, but I just didn't want to be. I don't know. I just maybe it's
Didn't
my.
want to assume.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want to assume that, you know, that she was wholeheartedly the villain, you know?
Yeah.
And
Which is a good place to start from.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to assume anyone's the bad guy at first, to be honest, but you know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I've also been in relationships that were mutually toxic. It's like, you know, weren't not good for each other, either due to lack of education or lack of experience or all the above or bad education. Take
Hmm.
your pick, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so it's just, you know, I kind of, you know, and then of course there is also that level of like Johnny is so much older than she is, you
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
there
Which
was like,
seems like there would be more of a power dynamic there because of that.
yeah, and maybe Johnny just doesn't do work that way mentally. I don't know. That's what I
I definitely, that is a problem I have with it. Like that was another thing. Like those are the small places where I'm like anti Johnny. Like I think it's gross that he's like just going at like it seems to always like every 10 years or so get a new wife who's like in her 20s, early 30s, and it's like, maybe just stick with somebody who's your own age.
yeah.
But like also uh,
But she's
I
also, it's
just
not
feel
like
like
she's like 20, you know, 3 or something. She's like, you know,
no,
27
she's like 30.
or
She's
30
she's
something.
35. 30, yeah.
Yeah. So she's
Um
not exactly
he's
young either, so it's kind of that
I don't
weird.
think he's a predator
Yeah.
by any means. I definitely think it makes him look bad, but I don't think it makes him bad. I just think it's like, I think it's more of a you're reliving your childhood through, or your younger years through your partner type thing, makes you
Okay.
feel young.
Yeah.
And I think that's gross. I think maybe go to therapy instead. But
Damn.
I don't think it makes you a bad person.
That's
You
it.
know,
When I'm 40, I'm gonna date a 30-year-old just to piss you off.
I'll beat you up.
Bring
Okay,
it
he's in
on.
his 50s actually. So they have like
We'll
a 30-year age gap,
we'll
but I
have
don't think that
a YouTube
automatically makes
boxing
him bad.
match and make $1 million like the Paul brothers. That's what we'll do.
I will judge you. I hope you know that.
I'll cancel you on Twitter. I'm joking. For the record, I'm making jokes.
Uh,
Anyway, continue.
but no. I think it's the mannerisms and stuff too that really bring me more on Johnny's side with everything because he very much comes across as like he didn't want a part of it, but now it's like he's losing movie roles. Like he's like his legacy is tainted because like everybody like he lost Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. And it
Yeah.
is unfair because yeah, sure she only has one movie role she's doing, but it is kind of unfair that she gets to keep that and he lost it all,
Yeah.
especially when it wasn't like ever proven. You can see a lot of things where it has been set up, and it'd be
Yeah.
hard to like bring out all the things, but you can see different cases where it's like she's going out of her way to try to see him and getting mad because he's like, no, get out, like I want nothing to do with you,
Mm-hmm.
and he was smart enough to like record that audio, but
Yeah.
she's like, oh, she's gonna file a restraining order against him and then come to his hotel room begging him to let her stay. And then after that's when she got mad and then it was like, oh, well, he's abusing me because he didn't want anything to do with her after she kept abusing him.
Yeah. The other thing that's like, I don't know. It also could be like, you know, his age finally catching up to him. You know, because Johnny's always kind of had a very youthful appearance for a long time. Like, let's face it, the guy was in his
Mm-hmm.
50s and he looked like he was in
Plastic
his 30s.
surgery helps too.
I don't know. I didn't know if he was just makeup or surgery or whatnot, but I just thought the guy had a very youthful appearance. I'm like, man, don't we all wish we could look like we're in our 40s when we're in our 60s? And Johnny is like, I don't know, he's looking a little haggard these days. And the only thing I can think of is either it's his age catching up or it's the stress of the whole thing,
I think it's a little bit of both for sure. I mean, obviously I think a lot of it is when he's doing other stuff, he's got like heavy makeup and stuff on. He's being
Yeah.
done up for his role, so it's gonna be different.
Yeah.
But I think it's just about being tired. Also, I think getting a spray tan and then dyeing your hair is bad. Obviously his fashion is the least of importance, but
Yeah, I just meant like,
he looks better with his natural pale skin and his dark hair. It just
yeah, I
I think
just meant like
it makes him
his,
look older.
yeah, well,
It brings out his
that's,
wrinkles. It makes him look
yeah, but I was meaning
uh
like,
yeah.
that's not what I was meaning with his style. I just meant like in his facial expression and the way his face is right now. Like from the pictures I've seen, he just looks like he is like so tired and stressed, and like his body language is what I'm referring to. Like
Yeah.
he looks like an older gentleman in his body language, and he looks like a guy who's just kind of been beat down, and that's what I was saying. Like he's starting to look his age is because maybe the stress, is getting to him. Like also he's put on a little bit of weight.
Hmm.
Like he's not as thin as he was when he was doing Pirates of the Caribbean. And the only thing I guess, and maybe it's just because, like you said, he lost a bunch of roles, and so there's nothing for him to do but sit at home and gain roles.
Yeah.
A different kind of role.
And because it's not like he needs the money. Like he's done enough stuff now that he's set for life. I think
Yeah.
it's just about like nobody wants to be known for that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like it has to be infuriating when it's like, and especially since he's been able to very clearly prove his innocence.
Yeah.
I don't see like why he wouldn't, like, for me, if I was in that position, I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I think
Like I'm not going to protect you
yeah, I think the
when
only
you've
thing I
done nothing
saw,
but make my life miserable.
yeah, the only thing I think I've seen is that he said that he wouldn't work for Disney anymore because they tossed him under the bus.
Yeah.
Because they fired him over allegations, like not even any proof. Like it's not like the Harvey Weinstein thing where there's like a bunch of people that have come forward and had similar accusations. This was one person, and now we've got all the evidence that it's kind of flipped.
Yeah, that's also the thing that's very frustrating is that he was never given a chance to tell his side of story. Just people took it at face value.
Yeah.
And most of that, in all fairness, has to do with the actions of past men, but it's still unfair that was what kind of cards got dealt to him.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve that kind of treatment, especially since he had a long record of being somebody who was respected and had treated everybody around him with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
But I think he's definitely like getting his side out now and is, in my opinion, winning his case very well.
Yeah.
I've seen very few people take the side of Amber, and I
yeah.
feel like you have to just be not paying attention to everything that's gone on to do that, and just
Yeah.
assuming. That's the only logical explanation to me.
It's
Still.
it's definitely wild, and the one of the reasons why I was very hesitant about getting any kind of involved in that too is because like I've also been seeing a lot of like people like making, you know what I mean, like the toxic guys will use this as an excuse, to like that's part of it too. So it's kind of like
I think that's definitely one of the most frustrating things because it's like, oh, this is to prove like all women, and it's just
yeah.
For them, it's not about like, oh, here's a case of, because they've never cared about the fact that men aren't getting listened to when they're abused, because you're the ones laughing at the guys who are coming forward when they get abused.
Yeah.
You never see women picking on men for like, oh, she could have overpowered you. It's always other men doing that to men.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like, you don't care. You just want to have an excuse when you've been called out for being abusive.
Yeah.
You don't actually care about Johnny or what's been going on with him.
And then there's also the flip side of it where like you have those toxic guys, right? But then you have the guys who legitimately care about it because they've been abused before, and they're getting compared to that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's very like it's a whole like cesspool of a situation, really, because like for example, there's this lady that I saw on TikTok. I don't know who she is. I just know she had a video go viral because she's all like, all these men and now all of a sudden are interested in this abuse case. I'm like, yeah, because it's a famous person who's a guy who's the victim. That's why. It's because
Yeah.
we're granted. I agree with you. It's most of the time it's guys pointing at male victims and going, you can't be a victim, you know, because because there's this idiotic, what is
Mm-hmm.
the word I'm looking for? Uh, Status quo, I guess, that men are supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to be tough. We don't have feelings. We don't get abused, that kind of thing. It's like, what do you call it? What is the word I'm looking for? Forget it. Point being, guys have,
Toxic
yeah,
masculinity.
well, it is that, but there was a specific word I was looking for, but it's not coming to me, so forget it. The point that I'm getting at is like, you know, and then I'm seeing like women who maybe are on the right side of the idea there. You know what I mean? Like, men shouldn't be victims, but I've been seeing.
Well, I
Go ahead.
I think the thing that women, a lot of girls are frustrated with is that like when girls have spoken out about being abused,
Mm-hmm.
they don't care. And I think like it's an interesting case because it's something that flips gender roles and because it's high profile people. But I think nonetheless, like it is upsetting to see like the attitude of, oh, we're getting our comeuppance, like we're this is like treating this like it's some kind of revenge payback
Yeah.
fantasy instead of, oh, I don't, and continue on.
Yeah, but it's just kind of gross all around because we are seeing the toxic guys who just you want to use it to beat women over the head with it. To be honest, we let's be real here. We are seeing that, but we're also seeing like these women who are also in defense because of that behavior are now looking
Hmm.
at the actual guys who are just talking about it who have been victims, going, well, you're not a real victim. They're doing the very thing that,
Yeah,
as a reflex, that they get accused of by those guys. So it's
yeah.
like it's literally it's the kind of just what is it? I'm gonna quote what's his name, Virgil Hawkins' dad from Static Shock. Uh, that kind of hatred just feeds on itself.
Hmm.
That's so that and more maybe I should paraphrase for this situation. That kind of negativity feeds on itself. Maybe I should say, because I don't
Yeah,
necessarily know if it's hatred, but it is definitely negativity, and it's hurt people, and it's that maybe that's another part of it too. Like I said, I saw a lady who was basically discounting that all these men are interested in this case because it might be the first time we're actually believed. But at the same time, I can't
mhm,
discount women's hesitancy to listen to it because obviously the guys who are just using it as a gotcha are there too. So it's a
yeah,
whole. It's like I'm trying. It's like we're trying to straighten out a piece of barbed wire that's been wire rounded up into a ball. You know.
yeah.
And unfortunately, trying to fix this mess of a piece of barbed wire, we're all gonna get cut along the way,
There's
and
a metaphor.
need a tetanus shot. I think that's a good explanation for what's happening, don't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's hard because some people can't just take things on an individual basis, and it's like, I do think it's some people are using this case as an excuse to be shitty, which is
Yeah.
awful, but also I'm not gonna like dismiss everybody because some people are using it with bad intentions.
Yeah. I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why I've stayed out of it for so long. Is because it's hard to know who to trust. Like I trust you. You know what I mean? If you
Mhm.
say something, I have a feeling that it's probably true. Just because I
I
know
feel
you.
like when it comes to this subject, I'm very mad on both sides because
Yeah.
like I can relate to what's going on a smaller level. Obviously, I'm not like a huge public figure, but I remember when I was trying to get justice against my abuser, I did use things like social media. And there were a lot of people who used it as entertainment, and it really hurt to see that and to not be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Between like the girls like, oh, keeping up with the tea and get justice, but they wouldn't actually
Yeah.
help me when I needed it. Like they wouldn't come by and be witnesses and stuff like that for me.
Yeah.
There were so many people who would like to keep up and be like, I hope you got justice, but they wouldn't take time out of their day to actually help me.
Yeah.
I saw that happen a lot. But the worst thing was also like I had a lot of guys try to use that to play their savior complex. I had a lot of guys try to ask me out at around that time and oh, I could treat you better, and using this as a chance to fetishize me as the wounded woman, and it was awful. It was awful because it's like the last thing I wanted then was another guy up in my face when I was trying to get justice for somebody who was abusing me.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people who had known me for a long time all of a sudden be like, "Oh yeah, do you want to go, you want to go out, you want to go out." And it's like, "No, of course I don't." That's the last thing that's on my mind right now. And it's been really gross because something I've seen on TikTok a lot with Johnny Depp is a bunch of, in all fairness, they're probably just dumb teenage girls, but doing this as a time to like, oh, I'm making Johnny Depp edits, and isn't Johnny Depp so hot? Amber's such an idiot. I would let this man sit on my face. Like, isn't he so hot? And it's like, I don't think Johnny Depp cares about whether or not you'd want to fuck him right now. Maybe
Yeah.
care about the fact that this is a victim, and now is not the time to
You want to know?
ew gaga over him.
That
And
reminds me.
it just drives me crazy because people will do that. Like use it as an excuse to be like,
Well, you know
this
how I
person.
can tell who's like a real fan who's trying to be empathetic versus that? Because I saw a story about somebody who actually made Johnny Depp's day during one of this. A
Mm-hmm.
fan after the court thing had ran into Johnny Depp and came to him with a bouquet of flowers. Just to
That's nice. That's nice.
That's it. That's all she did. She just handed him a bouquet of flowers, and then somebody and a guy and camera people are everywhere, and they got a picture of it, and his grin was ear to ear, and it was like just a little. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. The whole situation's gross, but that was just a little something. I was like, well, that's a
That's
little feel
yeah.
good right there. It probably did make his day. Let's face it, he'll be talking about that probably with his buddies for years to come. Like, a fan just gave him flowers, just because she could.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
That's cute.
yeah. So I don't know. It was nice to see, and he took a picture with her, of course, and everything, because she's a
Mm-hmm.
fan. But I think that's the difference. You know what I mean? That's the fan who actually wants to see him thrive and get justice, and then there's the fans who are just treating it like it's a reality TV show.
Right. Well, I just think it's so sad to like have that reaction of fetishizing somebody, and it's like, what if he was ugly? What if he was butt ugly? Would you still care?
Yeah. What if instead of Johnny Depp,
What
it
if he
was
wasn't?
Danny DeVito, somebody who's not considered conventionally attractive? You know,
Yep.
what if instead of okay, or better yet, what if instead of Johnny Depp, what if it was me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not exactly considered conventionally attractive. Yeah. How many of you ladies have come sent for me and my short ass? All I'm saying is if I ever get in a relationship in the future where I have to show evidence that I was abused, I better get some I better get a bouquet of flowers. That's all I'm saying. It's a horrible joke.
Yeah.
I'm just using
It's
humor to deal
it's
with it.
yeah. Well, that's just I don't know. To me, it's just frustrating because I remember going through that exact thing, and it's really insulting, and
Yeah.
people think they're being nice by doing that, and it's like
Yeah.
I had one guy literally message me like, "Oh, you wanna? I could show you how a real man will teach you or treat you," and like you never met this guy before, just saw the drama going on and decided to private message me.
Not even somebody you're friends with or was a coworker like
No,
me.
no, just some random dude.
Ugh.
And it was frustrating. So it's like, oh yeah, like, are you involved? Could you help? And I see that, and it makes me so mad. Uh, but yeah, yeah. Um, I feel like it'd be more interesting if I could like show you clips and stuff or something, maybe
I
like
don't think
send
I
you
need
something.
that stress, but I believe you. I've seen you've shared DMs with me before, like forever
I
ago.
feel like maybe in the future I can like send you because I feel like things like the audio recordings and whatnot, things that he's taken of her, are much more helpful.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your situation, not Johnny's.
No,
I was
no,
about to
no.
say, I
I'm
think
saying
I've
Johnny
already
Depp
seen that. I don't
because
need to
I
see
feel
it
like now
again.
I'm making it more personal, you know.
Yeah, that's what I thought
But
you were.
I relate to a lot of that, like when he's talked about it, how like yeah, she was really nice and kind to me towards the beginning of the relationship, but then like they keep pushing and pushing and aiming for control, you know.
Yeah, I've had that experience too, to be honest, where I'd be with a partner that was very nice and kind to me, and you know, we're very romantic with each other, and then as time went on, things
Hmm.
got harder and harder,
Hmm.
and so yeah, that's and I'm not saying I'm a catch or nothing, you know what I mean? Like obviously I've got some stuff to work on, when it comes to relationships. I can admit that.
Nobody's perfect, but
I got a lot of stuff I need to work on. I'm just saying that, like, I don't think I deserved deserve to be treated like a blithering moron or made to feel like I was the size of an action figure.
yeah, and that's the type of things people will do for control because it's like, well, if you really thought this loved this person, why would you choose to be with them? You could just break up with them.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I don't think they even really mean any of what they're saying. They just want to make you feel like you're not good enough for them, so that you feel like, oh well, where else would I go?
Yeah.
You're right. I'm. You're such a piece of shit, but I love it. It's the same way, Christianity is very abusive to your like mental healthy, where it's your mental psyche because it's like, oh, you're a disgusting piece of shit, sinner, but don't worry, God loves you anyways. God will love you despite that, and it's like
Yeah.
it's all about controlling your mind, making you feel like you're not good enough, so you're less likely to leave.
Yeah, yeah. I just, yeah. That was a whole transferring away from Christianity for me was a whole debacle of itself. Which is funny because,
Yeah.
like, I was already like hanging off of the edge with Christianity, and then my last relationship fell apart, and I was just like, to hell with all of it. That's just kind of. I mean, that's not that relationship falling apart wasn't the reason I completely went to a different belief system, but it definitely was a good time for me to go. You know what? I just need to shed all the old stuff and start forging my own way. Like that's. I'm just saying, like that's if I can take anything negative and spin it into a positive, that's the only thing I can say is I took that last
Hmm.
relationship that failed and I said, okay, to hell with it. I'm gonna go do all the things that she didn't want me to. She didn't want to let me do.
Oh. Relationships, the end of them anyways, can be like a really great chance to discover yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
I became a pagan and I started making content more regularly because I didn't have her stopping me all the time.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing. That was the big thing for me. I got in touch with my inner witchy side, and I got to start making, YouTube videos and TikToks, which I just never had the time when I was in my last relationship because she was so demanding of my time. Like I would literally
Hmm.
try to get like replay footage, and she would constantly like nag at me while I'm, you know what I mean? Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. I'm like, I just hang out. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, I could just couldn't. Like, if I
Hmm.
left the room for 5 minutes, it was, where were you? It's like, it's very overbearing.
Yeah.
she couldn't just be content with me being in the same room. You know,
Hmm.
like I'm sure you and Bogart are like you get it. Like you and Bogart might spend time together, but you're not always, you know, on each other. You know what I mean?
I I wouldn't say we're always talking, but we're usually, if he's like, we're always doing everything together, but we're also in a smaller space, and
Right, but if
most of
like
his hobbies are just arguing with people. So
right, but you get what I'm saying. Like he can argue with people on Facebook, right, and you can play a video game, and that's perfectly good quality time spent together. Is what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
I would say that's like,
Yeah.
existing in the same space.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And I couldn't play my game and have her watch a movie while I play the game to get the
Mhm.
footage. Like that was what I thought. Okay, I was like, I'll play this game, you watch your movie. You'll get to pick the movie because I won't be paying attention to it anyway. It's a
Mhm.
win-win, and she would just get mad at me because I wasn't, watching the movie with her. But I'm like in the same room. I didn't leave the room. I'm right there. It was like literally less than 5 feet away. You know, it's very
Mhm.
frustrating.
Yeah, I've definitely been in like situations similar to that. I don't know like that one exactly, but like somebody, um I guess not respecting your privacy at all.
Yeah.
For me, I never much had that where it's like somebody needed to have my time, but I remember just little things like my high school boyfriend who I was originally engaged to, he used to read my diaries and then get upset because I was depressed. And it's like I should be enough for you, so you shouldn't be depressed.
As if any of that
You
has
shouldn't
any.
want to harm yourself.
Yeah,
You know.
as if his existence had anything to do with your depression in the first place.
Right. And that's the thing is I feel like that's definitely I think that could be a different attitude, whereas, a big difference between that and like how Bogart would handle that is it's like not taking it personally like, oh, it's because I did something wrong. It's more, oh, you're feeling this way. How can I help you? But it was more upsetting because it's like that was, when somebody's writing in a diary, it's like
You're
your
not.
spam thoughts,
Yeah.
it's private, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, I get it.
And I wasn't allowed to have private thoughts and just little things like he would get on my, not just look at what was on my Facebook or go through my messages. I could care less when somebody went through my messages, but he wanted to not only go through things like my Facebook, but wanted to be able to post things pretending to be me. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't,
Yeah, that's gross.
uh, yeah, it was just like there wasn't any kind of separation there ever.
Yeah. That's I'm kind of like that too. I don't really when I've had partners and I don't really care if they see my messages or whatnot because
Right.
but that's just that's kind of big whoopee there, but and it's just how it is. We both have had bad partners in the past,
Yeah.
and it's hard, it's and then of course you take those life experiences and then to bring it back to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation, it's like then it kind of brings you know its own biases into it too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
I have bias in that situation where I remember, yeah, when somebody's gaslighting, it's like, well, nobody's gonna believe you, and it's like, ooh,
I never when I was being abused by some of my exes. I'm not gonna say which ones or anything because for all I know, some of them might watch, and I don't want them to you know try to pull an Amber Heard on me. But I'll put it to you this way: I will say this: I never had any of them like when they would abuse me. They never said anything to me like, "Oh, well, no one's gonna believe you." But I think it was just
really?
kind of, yeah. But the reason why I think is because they figured that I don't think they figured what they were doing was wrong in the first place. Like the ex that slapped me a bunch of times, like as hard as she
Mm-hmm.
could. Because we live in the Bible Belt, so like there's nothing I could do in that scenario. Um, there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do. I hit her. I'm the bad guy. If I don't hit her, I'm a bitch. So
Right.
You
There's no
know,
way to win when you're
yeah,
being abused as a man. It's like,
yeah. So it was just kind of like, and that's, and I think at the end of the day, that's the reason why they never had to say anything like that to me, because, especially, you got to remember this is also like the, 2000, what, 2010s, the early, like 10 years ago
yeah.
for me. So it's like even it was even worse then. So so I think that's one of the reasons why I never had an ex say that to me, like, because they would be like, well, what are you gonna do about it. So there wasn't anything to say about it, because the church said I should just toughen up and deal with it.
Yeah,
And
nobody's gonna take you seriously or be on your side.
yeah, and I got slapped in front of everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember the first time she hit me, you know, I got smacked in front of everyone. In fact, here's the weird, here's the creepiest part about that, right? That room was loud, right? Booming loud.
Nobody's
It's
understanding.
early in the morning. It's before everything's supposed to get started. Because I was still in school at the time, and she hit me as hard as she could, and I don't even remember what we were arguing about. I just remember I was winning, like the verbal argument. I remember I said
Hmm.
something that really got at her. I don't remember what. Probably compared her to her mom or something, because she was being a turd.
Hmm.
And her mom and her had a contentious relationship, to say the least. But she pulled back with her full baseball sports girl type arm and just wham, and you could hear
Hmm.
the, like, it
Yeah.
echoed in that area. And I remember hearing from a bunch of, like, ladies from, like, across the room, and like, and I'm like, and I stood there shocked for a minute, and the room went dead silent after that clock, and then I heard one of her friends giggle, and then everybody just kind of went back to like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then I had to go talk to her, and I just kind of stand there, and I got a grin on my face, because I was in shock. I just kind of was like, what just happened?
Hmm.
I'm sitting there, like, I remember, like, I just kind of like just kind of smirked, because I didn't know what else was I gonna do. I mean, like I said, and what's also weird about that situation, now that I think about it, we were young adults, both of us. I think we were both, like, I think I was 19 and she was 18, right? We were both young
Hmm.
adults, but you know what I remember is, like, none of the older adults that saw the whole thing said or did anything. There were people
I
who were,
believe that.
yeah, there were people who were in their
It's less
30s to
bad that it
50s.
happened; it's that nobody would care.
Yeah, and nobody did care. Nobody gave a shit that she smacked the shit out of me. And I mean, I had a hand imprint for like half of the day. Like, it didn't go away till about noon. I had just red handprint on my face. And teachers that didn't see what had happened were asking me about it, and I said I don't want to talk about it. And that was it. That's all I could say. I don't want to talk about it, and I didn't. But but I knew they were going to hear about it eventually anyway, so I figured let somebody else explain it, because I just didn't want to relive it. So there you go. There's my trauma for the internet, I guess. So yeah, and that was the first time she hit me. That won't even be the last time. Like, she hit me, like, as far as I can recall, she hit me two more times after that. But you know, it was an ugly relationship, to say the least.
Hmm.
But I remember, but that's what I remember. I remember getting hit, and I remember, like, nobody said or did anything. None of my female friends offer. I don't think I can recall. None of them even offered to hit her for me. And I had chick friends back then, so I don't think none of them offered to hit her for me or nothing.
Okay, I thought you talked about other guy friends. I'm like, of course they wouldn't. What are you talking about?
No,
Are
no.
you
I mean my chick friends. I
okay?
had friends that
Okay.
were girls. We were in the same, like, theater class and stuff like that, or in the same PE class, and we hung out together and stuff. And I don't recall any of them saying, "You want me to hit her for you?" you know, and they were on my side on it too. Like I remember multiple of my female friends telling me, "Hey, you need to break up with her."
Hmm.
But that's all they did. They told me, you know, and I'm not too mad about that part, you know, because like when you think about it, at the end of the day, you know, we're all like 16, 17, 18 years old. We're still kind of kids, you know. I'm not mad at them for not sticking up for me because you know they were kids too. It's not like they knew any better than I did. So I don't hold any
Hmm.
ill will towards them, but it's very like it was a yeah. So you
It's still
know,
upsetting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I still have a lot of feelings about like things I went through with my like young relationship. And yeah, back then when you're still a kid, there's no reason to put up with that kind of stuff. Like you can see the early signs of what kind of person that person's going to be. Get out before, you do have deep roots in there, but you know.
yeah, but of course, you know, love makes you do stupid things, or when you think you're in love anyway,
Yeah.
it just makes you go, you know. And to be honest, I remember part of me thinking, like when I was a kid dating her, I remember thinking, well, I'm never gonna do any better than her. I do remember thinking that.
It's such a bad mindset.
I don't disagree. And
Oh.
so far, she's been right, but that's just because I suck at dating.
Hmm. It's better to be in no relationship than a bad one. That's what I think. I don't know. I always think
Yeah,
it's weird when people like think somebody has to be in a relationship. It's like there's nothing wrong with being single, especially if that's like the safer option.
yeah. Oh no, and don't get me wrong. I wasn't saying like you know I've dated women who were better women than her. You know what I mean? That's not what I meant. I just was making a joke about being single. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you know, it's
Yeah.
you know you can't date better if you're not dating. You know,
Right.
so it's like
That was.
that's the joke
Um,
I was trying to make. You know.
I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I definitely have the attitude of I would rather be alone than be with somebody who wasn't good for me. And I found like that was what I needed to do for myself. And like I had some dudes that I was seeing casually who would complain, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm like, well, uh, I'm not gonna bother date like unless this is actually going to benefit me. I'm not gonna bother dating somebody because I I don't need the I don't need the drama. I don't need the abusiveness. Like until you're to like I've known you enough to the point where you could prove that you're not going to treat me bad. Like I'm just not gonna bother because it's just I don't feel like there's no need for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Like
life's too short
it
to
doesn't
date people
benefit
who
me in
are
any way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Life's
I
too
just
short
I
to
feel
date
like people like obviously it should be treated as like something that's nice to have on the side. Like I don't think relationships should be treated as a necessity. You never need to be with somebody.
I agree.
There's nothing wrong with being single. I would much rather be single than in a bad relationship any day.
To quote Robin Williams, it's better to be alone than to be with people who make you feel alone.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one that comes to my mind. I have a lot of quotes that just come to my mind for some reason. Like
Hey.
like when people ask me about why am I doing the whole like content creating thing, I often will say, well, why don't I get like a more practical job? I say, the Jim Carrey quote comes to my mind. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well fail at what you do want.
It's true.
So there we go. That's the whole like that's my whole like reason for being a content creator is just it's I figure I could be miserable working for somebody else or I could be miserable trying to work for myself and I'd much rather work for me.
Yeah. That's a good outlook on life.
Yeah, I'm gonna be broke either way. Sorry,
You know
this
what?
that's just a
Yeah.
that's just a concept on. I mean, honestly, that's more of the system than anything. You know what? Also, here's the thing that I think that a lot of people don't talk about. Um, if our system was better, it would be better for content creators too. So you're
What do
thinking,
you mean?
all right. So think about this. A lot of content creators have like either an OnlyFans or a Patreon, or they have like if they're a streamer, they have like gifts and things like that. You can give the streamer. TikTok does it.
Right, right,
YouTube,
yeah.
Twitch, they all do it. Right. So there's multiple ways for you to make money, and of course then there's ad money. Right. If
Hmm.
people who work their 9 to 5 had better pay and better benefits, better rights, our system was fixed the way it's supposed to be, like our taxes fund our healthcare system, right? The people who work the 9 to 5 would have more money, and if they have more disposable income, guess what the Twitch streamer could get, but potentially better at. They have more,
Right, yeah.
yeah. They might be more inclined to toss a dollar or two at the Twitch streamer. So, in my mind, making the guy who works the 9 to 5's life better, it does make the life of the person who doesn't work the 9 to 5 better too. It just kind of like, if honestly, if you make it better for the guy at the lowest bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, if you make it really good for him, everybody else, you know, wins indirectly.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I look at it. Like, just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, if the guy who, like, like, if the lady who works at the IHOP is treated well, gets paid well enough to where her bills are taken care of, if the medical care system is the way it was supposed to be, you know, she wouldn't have to worry about, like, if she gets sick, she can take off. Like if there were better workers' rights, you know what I mean? Because then you think about it, like especially in the food industry, there should be just rights for specifically for people who work in the food industry. Honestly, if you work in a bakery, if you work
Yeah.
in a grocery store, if you work at a McDonald's, an IHOP, Applebee's, whatever, you should have the right to just take off if you're sick, and your employer shouldn't be allowed to fire you for it. And the reason I
Hmm.
say that is because if you're sick, I don't think you should be working around food. How many times have I mean, you've worked in the food industry. Think about it. How many
Yep.
times have you gone to when you worked at that bakery, how many times did you go in with a cold?
Oh, all the time. I still do that. I still work in food service, and most of the time when I go into work, I mean, now I usually just wear a face mask when I'm sick, but like I can't afford to just call out of work when I'm sick.
Exactly. If the system was the way it was supposed to be, you could afford to do that because you would also be making a living wage on top of that. Am I calling you on the other phone now?
Yeah, sorry, it just glitched, and I was like, what?
Yeah. I just was saying that, like, if our system worked the way it was supposed to, everybody would win. Like, for example, if you're the Twitch
Hmm.
streamer, right, and you make money, you playing video games and screaming like Markiplier, you know what I mean? That's your job, right? Your job's to be for the funny man that screams at all the scary robots that pop up at you at Five Nights at Freddy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And people want to make, you know what I mean? Like, that people want to tip you. They want to give you. They
Hmm.
want to throw that $1, $2 at you because you're the funny man who jumps and screams at the scary robot. Or maybe they want to give that spicy accountant, her money, or whatever. Or maybe that YouTube personality that everybody likes. That's uber friendly makes videos about them learning Spanish or something. Just whatever the content is that you create. Right? If
Hmm.
I'm just saying, like, if that person makes a living wage, they got more disposable income, which means that they get a little bit, and which means they're more inclined to toss you a dollar. And then, of course, when they toss you a dollar, YouTube gets a percentage of that dollar or whatever, which then goes to keeping YouTube going, keeps more advertisers, etc. It's just everybody wins if the common guy, the guy who's at the middle, who's in the middle and the lower class, is taken care of.
Hmm.
Like, honestly, the billionaires, that's the problem with the billionaires is they hoard all their money, and it's like, that hoarding's not helping anything. It's not even helping you. Ultimately, like, when you think about it, it's not helping them. They're not doing anything with that money. They're not expanding their business. They're not, you know what I mean? They're just looking for more ways to screw everyone else over. So the whole business model to me seems like it's been corrupted. It's not even just like capitalism. It's not even capitalism. It's just crony capitalism at this point. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I don't know how I got on that tangent.
Ah, I don't know. Talk about why things aren't fair. Yada
Yeah.
yada.
That's kind of been the whole theme of this, really. When you think, even when you bring it back to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, the whole theme of this podcast has been like the unfair bullshit that exists in our world.
Mhm.
It's just
It's true.
yeah. And then I trauma bombs the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's all of Brian's stuff that he deals with on a daily. Hold that amble for me for a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, so what do you? So ultimately, what we have learned is that Johnny Depp actually is the innocent party. Amber Heard's the villain, but don't use that as an excuse to attack women victims. That's the moral of today's story. Believe men, don't
And don't
attack women.
fetishize people who are going through trauma. Maybe
Yeah, that's
that'd
another
be
lesson.
cool too.
That's yeah, we can add that. You guys all the watchers have homework, especially Bogart if you made it this far.
I wonder. It's like, did you actually watch? If you watched this, text pineapple.
That would be funny. If you get a text message from Bogart of a pineapple emoji, you have to send me the
There you go.
screenshot. Oh man. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Like, have you also heard about all the people who are like trying to boycott Aquaman 2 because Amber Heard's in it?
I do see that, and I agree with that decision because I don't think, like, obviously it's not fair to everybody else who worked on it, but also I feel like they've known for a long time that people are not okay with her getting a role, and they're doing it anyways. So I
Yeah.
think the studio's going to get to them what they get, and I support that decision. You know.
You know, and the truth is, it's not like you won't get to see the movie at all just because if you don't go just because you don't go see it in theaters.
Yeah.
So you could still go watch the
I
movie if you're a DC fan. You just gotta wait for it to not be in theaters.
yeah. I don't see the. Yeah, I think that it's probably a good thing. You know.
Hmm.
I think that like that's peaceful protests are like a good way to go about things.
Yeah, I also think that like DC, like when it comes to the DC movies, I think it's just time to start over again. I hate to say that, like
Hmm.
let's go with the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Let's start over with him. I think that's the best
Yeah,
way to go because we're so far. Ezra Miller's gone crazy, and Amber Heard situation, it's just time to step away. If there's any actors that want to go to the new DC stuff, like Jason Momoa wants to keep playing Aquaman, what's her name, Gal Gadot wants to keep playing Wonder Woman, sure, go for it. But as far as like Ezra Miller and Amber Heard, I think it's time to let them go and just kind of reboot the DC universe.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Those movies weren't that great anyway, to be honest. Like Robert Pattinson's Batman movie was like the only good one, honestly. I mean, I liked Man of Steel, but the other superhero movies were just kind of Also, I feel like there's just too much, like, there's like, I don't know, there's just some kind of ire that people get, like, or what is it? Like, all right, so you know how the Marvel movies have, like, they have the winning formula. They even have the winning formula for Dark and Gritty, you know?
Hmm.
And everybody's trying to like not be Marvel, but I'm like, but if they have the winning formula, just do it. There's tons of characters that it makes sense with. I mean, the Flash is happy-go-lucky. Superman is literally a Boy Scout. Batman is the darkest dude you have, and his is the only thing they've gotten right, in my opinion. They haven't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like they need to do individual movies of the major players to get the cinematic universe going. You've got your Batman, Let's get a Superman movie. Let's get a Flash movie. Let's get a Wonder Woman movie if we have to. I mean, although the first Wonder Woman movie was actually really good, Aquaman 1 was actually really good. I don't, so they've made some good ones. They just did it backwards. They went to,
Um,
you
to
know,
be honest, I haven't seen the new Wonder Woman movie. I really liked
I
the
have,
first one though. I did see that one in theaters.
yeah, I haven't seen her second movie either.
I just I originally was kind of excited for it, and then I kind of forgot to ever watch it. To be honest, I never cared enough.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I like Wonder Woman. She's a cool lady. The movie
Yeah,
didn't,
just you know,
yeah, honestly, the movie just didn't look like it was all that interesting to me. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
yeah.
I get that.
I mean, that doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I don't know. I just, it just didn't look interesting to me.
I also never saw Aquaman, so maybe Amber Heard was hot as shit in that. But I'm just like, it's not worth it, guys. It's not worth
Yeah.
keeping her on. What are you
Well,
doing?
I watched Aquaman like I didn't watch it in theaters either. I remember I think I waited for it to what was it on Netflix or something? I can't remember. It was on some streaming services when I watched it.
Yeah.
So and she did, I mean, and like, look, the lady's a talented actress that just doesn't give her a right to be a dickhead.
Hmm.
you
I've
know,
never seen her anything. I think she's definitely hot, but yeah, it's not worth it.
you know what I've seen a lot of people want? They want the lady from Game of Thrones. It was Jason Momoa's
Yeah,
co-star. I can't remember her name, but
yeah. Well, they already like each other, so it would make
yeah,
sense to do that. They'd have a much easier time playing love interest since they, actually are interested in each other, and
yeah,
we already know they have good chemistry. I think it's kind of silly. I don't really care, but then again, I don't care about the Aquaman movies. I'm
right,
not like anti Aquaman, but like I've never been invested in it, never even saw the other one they made.
yeah.
So,
And Aquaman's just
you
not that
know,
great at. I'm sorry, but Aquaman's just not that interesting a character. I hate to say that.
yeah, I think, the actor they chose for him, I think he's really hot. I like watching him in Game of Thrones, but like I I don't care.
Yeah,
Don't care.
and they had to get someone like Jason Momoa to play him, to be honest, because Aquaman is just such a bland character. Honestly, like as a superhero, he's just so bland. I hate to say that because he does have some really cool stories in the comic books, but he's a blonde-haired white guy in the comic books who wears this weird-looking armor, and his power set had to be like upgraded over the years to make him more interesting. And I'm like, Jason Momoa was the most interesting version of Aquaman, to be honest. Just because
Yeah.
they made
It's
him.
like in all fairness, they didn't really have anything to work with, so it's like I know what you were going for, but not great.
Yeah, the guy who talks to fish originally just isn't a really and can breathe underwater. It's not. It's just not a fascinating. It's a very as superheroes go, Aquaman is very like only helpful in these situations with his original power set. And this is just as far as I'm aware. Maybe he always was super strong and like semi bulletproof or whatever. I don't know. I just know that like in the early days it was just implied that all he could do was breathe underwater and communicate with sea life. You know, so that was what it was implied, and then his power level was increased to say, no, I also can swim at super speed, and I'm very strong, and like anytime somebody tried to shoot him or stab him, it didn't go through. Only Atlantean weapons could actually hurt him, or energy weapons. And then I think like his like talk to fish thing became more of like, oh, I can command the sea life to do what I want. So it's less of a communication and more of like I have some type of like telekinesis over sea life now is more akin to what his power is. And then there's also like Atlantean magic now.
Hmm.
So like Atlanteans have like a type of magic that involves water that they can use. So it's a very complicated story, and if you're not a big superhero buff, you're not gonna get into it. But like Aquaman's power set, like originally, like I was trying to say, is very niche, and as a superhero, only provides so much for storytelling. Like it's cool that he's
Yeah.
an underwater hero, but you know, he can only be helpful in water-based threats. You know,
It's just it's just really silly. It makes sense for real life, but it's just so silly. And
yeah.
it's hard to make it anything but silly. I'm sorry. I can't get into Aquaman. I can't.
Well, I think one of the other things that makes it hard is like one, you have the power set that's only useful a handful of ways, and then outside of the water, he's just Captain America. You know what I mean? Like when you take the water away, he's just Captain. He's got all the same powers as Steve Rogers. You know what I mean? He's just I'm Steve Rogers if he could swim fast and could breathe underwater and control fish. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I can't,
yeah, it's
But obviously like I understand the thought process behind it, like, oh, let's get her canceled since,
yeah.
it's like revenge fantasy thing or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels kind of a little bit gross to me sometimes because, but like I said, the reason why it feels corrupted to me is just because of the TikTok bros.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah, I definitely think some of the memes and stuff that have been made from it are really eye rolling. Also, people just saying like, "Oh, she only gets roles because she sleeps around." I'm like, that's
yeah.
even if that was true, like, why?
It's not the gotcha that you think it is. Basically, is what I would say to
Yeah,
those guys. And like, so what? I don't care if that's how they got their role. I mean, to be fair, Amber Heard isn't a bad actress. To be fair, she might be a bad person, but she's not a bad actress.
yeah. Well, it's all like she could be an attractive woman and not gotten her abilities or her roles through sleeping around.
No, no, I don't think she did. To be honest with you, that just feels like
I
anytime.
don't think so
Yeah,
either.
anytime a guy
Yeah.
says that, oh, she's only famous because she slept with a director, it just kind of makes me go, did she really, or are you just saying that to justify your hatred for her? And and I use the word justify very loosely in this context, because honestly, hating a lady who's basically using that to get a job, to get a better paying job. I mean, at this point, society is such a shithole. Can you blame anyone for going that far? Honestly, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, look, it's gross when it comes. It is gross to a point because like somebody's getting taken advantage of somewhere. You know what I mean? In that
Mhm.
aspect, I'm just saying that like you know
Yeah.
our
It's definitely not the gotcha
yeah.
people make it out to be.
Yeah, that's almost more of a criticism of the system, unless again goes right instead of the criticism of the actor or actress. It's like,
Yeah.
is it really that they're the gross one because they did it, or is it gross that they were put in a situation where they had to do that, or they felt they had to do that to nail the job?
Mm.
Who's the real villain here?
Yeah, I also think it's weird like directors aren't considered gross that they're using their power
Yeah,
to get people to do stuff.
I concur. But yeah, and honestly, when it comes to this topic of conversation, like what I bring to the table is like comic booky stuff. So, um, I don't know. What would you do if you were gonna make well, for one, you probably wouldn't hire Amber Heard, but what would you do if you're gonna make an Aquaman movie interesting? How would you go about it? Would you just focus on the like maybe the
Um,
nature side of things, like put
I wouldn't try to make it an angsty movie. I would just make it a pretty scenery movie. Like, oh look, it's a guy and he's playing with fish.
so it'd be
Make it
basically
like the
just
Little
the
Mermaid but live action.
you just replace Ariel with Aquaman. So instead of so it'd just be like a you know
Yeah. I mean, he's basically dating Ariel anyways, a bright-haired redhead. Maybe do a crossover movie, just make that character Ariel instead. Be like, haha, this person was actually impersonating Ariel, and then use that as an excuse to get rid of Amber Heard. Just be like, oh, she, you is being held back from his true love, the Little Mermaid, Ariel, and she's got to get away from Eric. And just, I wouldn't care. I would be like, yeah,
the truth
make
is
it make it about like, or like have it be like anti factory or whatever. Make it just like a greeny film,
Yeah.
about the ocean getting polluted.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, would you make that movie instead? Because I mean, that's the actually that and really that's Aquaman's like real whole point of existing in the comic books today. It's the only thing I can justify
Hmm.
his existence. Is that Aquaman serves as the superhero that is like, hey, my society is one with nature, your society is not, and that is our conflict.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I'd watch that.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
because Atlanteans are very in tune with nature because they live underwater. And what do the humans do? We keep dumping our trash in there. So
Mm.
honestly, I mean, Aquaman could literally make a whole like statement just tossing trash out of the ocean back on land and hurling it at buildings.
I'd watch that movie. Yeah.
Just to see him with a kraken just hurling giant balls of trash back.
I think that sounds way more entertaining than like some angsty Hollywood flick.
You just want to watch the military get beat up by a giant octopus, don't you?
Why wouldn't I? You're saying that like it's a bad thing.
No, no, I totally get it. I was recently rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there was a scene where I was watching one of the vampire slayers that Buffy's training beating the crap out of a cop, and I was just like, the best scene in this whole show.
Yeah.
So I get it because and for the context for the viewer, if they happen to make it this far, the context is they're on the Hellmouth, so everybody's kind of going crazy, and the Hellmouth is like a dimensional gateway between like Hell and Earth, basically, or one of them. So basically, it drives normal people crazy. So the cops are extra violent for like
Ooh, fun.
yeah, they're just extra violent for no reason. So, um, like for example, and Buffy is the main hero, as you know, but there's another vampire slayer named Faith who has all the same powers, and Faith killed a person, a regular person, not a monster. So she was in prison, and then she had to escape prison to basically uh, help uh, another heroic character get his soul back. Um, and at the same time, then she was needed to help stop this apocalypse because Faith, the Slayers in that world are like basically they're like Captain America. Basically, they're like superhuman and all that stuff. So they're the only ones that can successfully fight demons off, pretty much, without like a team of people being involved. So basically, Faith and Buffy are the only two people with like normal people with superpowers, essentially. Um, so Faith was needed at this apocalyptic event, and that's where she went. And the cops they got the thing. Hey, there's an escaped convict in your area. We need you to get him. And instead of trying to get her, they found her at a nightclub that for some reason serves minors alcohol, which I think is really like, oh goodness, very 90s.
Hmm.
It's a very 90s
Yeah.
show. And anyway, needless to say, she gets into a tussle with the cops as like four of them are about to do like a what do you call it? Where they all line you up in a row and they shoot you. I can't remember what it's called. A firing squad. They're about to go
Okay.
yeah, they basically got her on her knees and were about to do like a firing squad with their pistols. And then she, because she's superhuman, she beats the crap out of like four cops. And then, of course, Buffy shows up and stops her from beating up the cops. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, with no context, of course. She just sees Faith beating the crap out of cops and thinks, "Oh, you're bad," because it's the '90s. They don't have that concept of what we know now yet. So, anyway, so that's what to bring it back full circle. Yes, that's the whole reason why I was just kind of like, "No, I get it. I would love to see movies where the military and the soldiers and cops and stuff get their comeuppance."
Yeah.
Especially when
Would
it's
be nice.
especially when it's just something as funny as like the idea of a CGI squid doing it.
Yeah.
The only problem here, what the sad part about it is did you know the military is involved in movie making?
Ah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, anytime that you there's actually kind of like a lot of contracts and stuff involved where like the military can only be portrayed in certain ways. If the Hollywood wants to use
Yeah.
their weapons and their tech in their movies. So have you ever noticed how there's not a lot of movies that portrays the military in a bad light, even here in the states?
Mhm.
That's why.
Ugh, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, sadly.
Yeah.
I've
Otherwise,
like heard of stuff like that before where they'll pay companies to make movies that make them look good. I know it's a big thing in the CIA is like they pay Hollywood directors to make movies that make them look cool, you know.
yeah, like what's that shooting movie about the sniper in Afghanistan or whatever? I don't remember what it's
I
called.
don't know.
The guy who voices Rocket Raccoon was the star of that
Mm,
movie. I just don't remember what the movie was called. But yeah,
I don't know either.
yeah, they make movies like that. They like
Mm.
even movies that are like criticizing them, like you know how Marvel criticizes the military a little bit in very lightly in Captain America or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
Now, the reason why they get away with it a little more and stuff like that is because obviously Marvel exists in a world where there's like machines that don't exist in the real world, so they have to CGI it anyway, like the helicarrier. It's not a real military machine, so they can afford to
Oh.
criticize them in kind of in that way. So like Shield is a military organization in the Marvel universe. That is what Shield is. Their goal is to handle those bigger problems, that like ordinary soldiers and stuff can't handle. But they have machines that don't exist in the real world, so they have to CGI it anyway. So they can Marvel can and Disney can get away with it a little more because they don't have to use as much of like military weapons and stuff like that. Whereas like
Mhm.
and that's the thing, a lot of movies want to use like they want to use like real like whatever rifles that our military actually uses, but with blanks and things like that for scenes. They want to have a shot that's actually in a helicopter that our military uses, or inside of a tank that our military uses, or they want to use the tank to blow something up in the middle of the desert for a scene or something.
Mhm.
So that's how that's how Hollywood, and so that's how those contracts start, is because Hollywood wants to use that stuff to make their movies, and so they're like, well, okay, we'll let you use our equipment to make movies about involving the military, but you got to make us look good. Like, have you also noticed in like the Marvel movies, like you'll see the superheroes rarely have like negative interactions with soldiers or cops.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that at all?
No, I don't watch a lot of Marvel movies.
Oh, well, I think you said you watched the first Avengers movie, right?
Yeah, I that's the thing is I don't find them interesting. You know, they don't really ever. If anything, the military looks good in that stuff, and they're coming to help with that. You know.
Right, and some of it's realistic a little bit. Like, obviously, like I don't think the cops and soldiers would give Captain America too much shit if he was a real person in the middle of an alien invasion. A guy with
Hmm.
superhuman strength and a shield that's literally deflecting laser blasts. They're having weapons that they don't have. Like in that scenario where a dude just kicked a alien across a mile long distance, I'm pretty sure most cops and soldiers would kind of fall in line in that scenario a little bit, or go, I don't have time to deal with the guy in tights. I got to deal with the alien invasion that's happening right now. So some of that's a little bit realistic, like or at least I would think so. You know,
Hmm.
because in that scenario you have a literal alien invasion. You have an invasion that's happening. You have so we have guys who are trained to do this stuff. They don't have time to sit there and pick fights with people who are on their side. Honestly,
Yeah.
like in those scenarios, like honestly, like when you think about it, if we were invaded, we wouldn't have time to pick sides. Are you Republican or Democrat, that kind of thing. As an example, I'm sure some people would, but for the most part, we wouldn't have time to make those choices. We'd have to just fight the aggressors.
Hmm.
You know. So some of that makes a little bit of sense. I'm just saying that like in the aftermath, I feel like superheroes and soldiers and cops would always be fighting each other all the time. when there's not like a greater threat that's happening.
Yeah, as we've talked about the whole like I think the whole um superheroes would be treated as terrorists and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I know I hate to bring that. I know that you hate probably get or tired of hearing that conversation. It's one of my favorite
No,
things
it's
to
fine.
talk about, though. It's just because, like, nobody talks about it except for me,
I
apparently.
definitely think it's true. Yeah. Oh, it's true. You're not wrong.
I still want to see Spider-Man
You
jump.
should be wrong, but like you're
Yeah,
not.
I should be. I should be wrong, but I'm wrong in the DC universe because in the DC universe, for the most part, cops and soldiers treat or treat superheroes the way they're supposed to be. With a level of respect. Or they kind of work together, like Batman and Commissioner Gordon. That's like that,
Yeah.
and that's the difference.
I thought
Marvel.
that the new Batman kind of had a little bit more of like a realistic portrayal of how that probably would go down.
Yeah,
Thought that was interesting the way they handled it.
I felt it had a little bit of both. To be honest with you, a little bit of realistic, like the way Commissioner Gordon and Batman work, but in unrealistic, like at the end where like you have Batman working alongside soldiers to get people out of you know like flooded zones, things like that. I feel like somebody would stop him and say, "I no, you're gonna take that mask off right now." You know,
I don't think so. Not like in an actual disaster.
oh, you think
I
maybe
think
they would
people
just
would
let
kind
it
of
go?
no, not in like a life or death situation like that. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So maybe like with my alien invasion example, you think, well, when there's a bigger fish to fry, there's not time to nitpick about who's helping.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think like when you're literally trying to dig bodies out of piles, that's different versus like everyday encounters, like, him helping out with, catching bank robbers. They would probably be a little bit more picky, like, hey, no, you can't work with us, you're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But I think with like something like that, I don't think, anybody would care. I could be wrong, obviously, but like I don't think they would care.
It's actually probably like realistically, it's probably a mix of both. Honestly, it might. You know what I mean? Like we're probably both wrong and right at the same time. Like maybe it probably what really would happen is you would have like groups of soldiers and cops who would be like, no, 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 I'm gonna arrest this guy right now. And then you'd have other cops and soldiers looking at him like he's crazy, going, "Are you out of your mind? We're in the middle of a war zone, or we're in the middle of a natural disaster. We don't have time for you to, try to make arrests right now. He's helping. Shut up and let's go." You probably would have a little bit of both, but that's there's only so much. Also, like, what would be the point of having that in a movie? Where it's
Yeah, it doesn't really add anything to the scene.
yeah,
And I don't think
exactly
people are like trying to fight for Batman's rights as a vigilante. They want
right.
to they're watching a movie.
Yeah, it's just and that's honestly that's probably why we don't see stuff like that because it doesn't help the story narrative at all. Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, we as much as you and I might like nitpick at this stuff and look at it like well this isn't realistic or that isn't realistic behavior wise. We also sometimes I think you and I both sometimes forget that wait, this is a movie. We have to there's a narrative that is being told. And there's only so much time to tell this story. So there's they don't have time to, and frankly Batman's the hero, so we're not going to focus on two random soldiers arguing about whether to arrest Batman or finish helping him dig people out of a building that's about to be underwater. You know,
Hmm.
so narratively speaking, you're correct. I think it doesn't add anything. It's just a fun conversation between us nerds.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that we've been talking for about an hour and a half. I think it's enough for us to wrap up
Yeah.
this conversation for the YouTubes. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, please like the video, subscribe, and leave a pineapple emoji in the comments if you've made it this far. Let us know.
Oh gosh.
No, we're not gonna see any. That's okay. We'll see. It'll be one. It'll be Bogart.
Highly doubt it, but just in case for science purposes.
Yeah, Bogart, you better leave us a pineapple.
I'm gonna fight you if you don't leave me a pineapple, and I'll win because I'm physically stronger, and no one will believe you.
I'm gonna help.
I'll herd you. I'll Amber herd you, and no one will believe you.
That's some dark humor right there.